Nobody is coming, not your friends, not your family, not even the world. If you want to rise, you have to do it for you. You've been told to be patient, to wait your turn, to hope someone notices your struggle. But here's the truth. The world doesn't reward suffering. It rewards action. And while you're waiting for permission, someone else is building mental strength, mastering self-discipline, and reclaiming their mind. If you're tired of chasing validation, if you're exhausted from trying to prove your worth to people who don't care, then you're exactly where you need to be. Because this is the turning point. In this video, we'll break down Stoic philosophy in the most raw, practical way possible. No fluff, no spiritual theatrics, just truth. You'll learn how to build unshakable mental discipline, how to silence self-doubt, how to find clarity in chaos, and most importantly, how to take your power back. You are not your fear. You are not your failure. You are not the opinions of people who don't live your life. You are the one who decides what happens next. You don't need more motivation. You need a mindset forged in fire. You need to stop outsourcing your worth and start building your reality. So if you're ready to face the truth and reclaim your focus, stay with me. Because the most important lesson is coming next, and it starts with the war inside your own mind. 1. Your mind can be your greatest ally or your worst enemy. It doesn't matter how much talent you have, how many books you've read, or how loud you scream your goals into the mirror. If you haven't learned how to master your mind, it will break you before the world ever gets the chance. The battlefield is not outside. It's not in your job, not in your relationships. It's not in the economy or in the comments of people who doubt you. The real war is inside. Quiet, invisible, but ruthless. Your mind can build you, make you fearless, focused, powerful, or it can destroy you from within, feeding you lies, fears, excuses, regrets. And the most dangerous part, you won't even realize you're at war until you've already surrendered. Every time you delay action because of self-doubt, your mind wins. Every time you scroll instead of reflect, avoid instead of act, complain instead of choose, you're feeding the enemy within. And the more you feed it, the more it controls you. The Stoics knew this centuries ago. Epictetus said, "You may not control events, but you can control your response." That response comes from the mind. It decides whether you react with panic or presence, weakness or strength, despair or clarity. The problem isn't what happens to you, it's how much control you've given to a mind that hasn't been trained. And a mind left untrained will always default to fear. But here's the truth, nobody wants to say out loud. You have allowed it. You've let your thoughts run wild like children without a guide. You've let every emotion, every external trigger, every voice of doubt dictate your direction. Not because you're weak, but because you never realized you could say no. You never realized you were supposed to step in and take the reins. And if you don't, the consequences aren't small. You'll keep living in cycles, starting with fire, ending in burnout. You'll stay stuck in shallow goals and empty accomplishments. You'll keep wondering why you're tired of everything, yet scared to let anything go. You'll become a prisoner in a cage you built with your own thoughts. This is why the Stoic mindset isn't philosophy. It's survival. It's how you train your thoughts to stop controlling you and start serving you. Because the mind is like fire. Uncontrolled, it burns everything. Directed, it fuels greatness. And if you want to reclaim your life, you start here. Not with affirmations, not with another book, not with blaming the past. You start by sitting in silence, looking your mind in the eye and saying, "You work for me now." That begins with discipline. Not just external habits, but mental discipline. You train yourself to pause before reacting, to challenge the thoughts that scream, "You're not ready," to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. You build the muscle of choice, and over time, you stop being ruled by impulses and start being led by intention. You stop wasting energy on what you cannot control and start focusing it like a laser on what you can. Your breath, your choices, your routine, your focus. You may think this is hard. It is, but so is staying stuck. So is waking up every day feeling powerless. So is watching your potential decay while your doubts grow louder. And if you had to choose between the pain of training your mind or the pain of regret, choose the one that builds you. Every time. Because once your mind becomes an ally, the world outside loses its power over you. Criticism becomes feedback, failure becomes direction, chaos becomes calm. That's the freedom Stoicism offers, not in avoiding life's pain, but in becoming stronger than it. So the next time your mind whispers you can't, answer back, watch me. The next time fear creeps in, recognize it not as a stop sign, but as a signal that something important lies ahead. And when the voices in your head grow louder than the world around you, remember, you trained for this. You've seen this before. And now, you're ready, because nobody is coming to save you. But if you master your mind, you won't need saving. 2. True freedom comes through structure and self-discipline. You say you want freedom, but you resist the very thing that creates it. You crave peace, but you reject the structure that protects it. People misunderstand discipline. They think it's prison. They think it's control. But they never see what happens without it. Without structure, your energy leaks. Without routine, your potential rots. Without order, your life becomes noise. True freedom isn't doing what you want when you want. That's chaos dressed in pleasure. Real freedom is waking up every morning, knowing exactly who you are, exactly what to do, and why it matters. That doesn't come from wishful thinking. It comes from design. And discipline is the architect. Your mind will trick you. It will whisper that rules are cages, that schedules are suffocating. But that same mind is the one that pulls you into addiction, distraction, and regret. The Stoics saw through this trap centuries ago. They knew a man ruled by impulse is a man owned by chaos. Epictetus didn't leave freedom up to chance. He created it through intentional daily practice. Wake, move, eat, train, think, reflect. Not because life was predictable, but because when the world turns upside down, structure keeps you steady. And in a world like this where uncertainty is the only guarantee, the strongest thing you can build is a life of order. Think of it like a warrior's armor. You don't wait for the battle to begin before you put it on. You build your systems before the storm comes. You sharpen your routines when things are calm so that when everything shakes, you remain still. That's the power of discipline. It's not glamorous, it's not loud, it's not exciting, but it's reliable. It's the quiet repetition of small wins. It's the invisible momentum that turns chaos into clarity. And the best part? It's within your control. Nobody can give you structure. You must choose it. And once you do, you'll realize it was never the enemy. It was the gateway. There's a reason monks wake before the sun and soldiers march before battle. There's a reason high performers guard their routines like sacred rituals. Because structure doesn't steal your life, it gives it back. You stop being a slave to mood. You stop waking up in confusion. You start directing your day instead of reacting to it. And that shift, that's where personal power is born. Imagine what your life would look like if your morning wasn't chaotic, if your body moved before your phone, if your thoughts were shaped by intention, not reaction. That's not fantasy. It's what happens when you stop negotiating with your lower self and start living with discipline. Let's get real. Most people wake up late, scroll for hours, eat garbage, skip exercise, delay the hard work, and then wonder why they feel lost. You don't need another motivational quote. You need a schedule. You need habits that ground you when emotions try to hijack your day. You need to respect your time the way a warrior respects his weapon. Because every hour wasted is a cut to your own momentum. And once you bleed energy long enough, your dreams die without ever making a sound. Take one example. A man wakes up at 10 a.m., grabs his phone, spends 45 minutes scrolling through other people's lives. He skips breakfast, feels rushed, skips the gym, blames time. He sits down to work, but his mind is foggy. He reacts to every email like a fire alarm. By 3 p.m., he's exhausted from doing nothing that mattered. Now imagine he wakes at 6, starts with silence, moves his body, reflects, eats clean, prioritizes deep work before distraction. That man finishes by noon what others can't in a week. He doesn't have more hours, he has structure. He doesn't chase freedom, he built it. This is why structure is a Stoic weapon. It guards your time, it shields your attention, it separates you from the masses drowning in distraction. When you wake at the same hour, train your body, nourish your mind, and commit to non-negotiables, you're not being rigid, you're being free. Because now you choose your battles. Now your energy flows where you direct it, not where the algorithm pulls it. You don't rise by feeling inspired, you rise by being consistent. And that starts with one decision. What are your non-negotiables? What habits will you protect at all costs? What time will you wake even when you don't feel like it? You don't need a perfect plan. You need a system that holds you when motivation fades. Because when life shakes you, it's not your feelings that will save you, it's your structure. So build it now. Defend it fiercely. Because one day, when the world falls apart, your routine will be the only thing still standing. And in that moment, you'll understand discipline wasn't a prison, it was your liberation. 3. Do one thing at a time. Be fully present in every action. The fastest way to ruin your life is to never actually be in it. You walk, but your mind runs elsewhere. You eat, but you're feeding your phone more than your body. You talk to someone while scrolling through someone else's world. And slowly, without noticing, you vanish from your own reality. You become a ghost in your own home, a background character in your own movie. Presence isn't some poetic luxury. It's survival in an age where distraction is the new drug. And if you don't reclaim your focus, the world will devour it, pixel by pixel, swipe by swipe, until there's nothing left but noise. This isn't about productivity hacks or calendar apps. It's about soul alignment. When you're not present, your energy fragments. You're split between past regrets, future anxieties, and someone else's curated highlight reel. And the cost is devastating. You stop feeling alive. You drift through days, disconnected from your actions, your choices, your relationships. The Stoics knew this erosion of attention wasn't just inefficient, it was dangerous. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present. Not because the past and future aren't real, but because your power only exists right now." That power is diluted every time you multitask, every time you check your phone mid-conversation, every time you eat with a screen or wake up to notifications instead of breath. Distraction isn't just an inconvenience, it's a thief. It robs you of meaning, depth, memory, even identity. And the deeper truth is that most people aren't just distracted, they're hiding in distraction. It becomes the escape from facing the silence, the boredom, the unresolved. But what you avoid in silence becomes your master in chaos. So if you want to reclaim control, you must learn to stand still in your own presence. No more hiding, no more numbing. Think of the mind like a light. When it's scattered, it flickers, weak, unstable, easily put out. But when focused, it becomes a laser, cutting through doubt, cutting through chaos, burning through excuses. Doing one thing at a time isn't a limitation, it's a weapon. It's how you train your brain to stop leaking energy and start generating momentum. You breathe, you walk, you work, you speak, fully, completely, with no mental residue, no leftover worry, no what if floating in your head, just now, just here, just this. And it's not just spiritual, it's physical. Neuroscience backs this up. Deep focus leads to flow states. Flow states lead to clarity. Clarity creates confidence, and confidence is fuel for disciplined action. So the more present you are, the more progress you make. This is not esoteric theory. This is practical personal power. Now imagine applying this to 1 hour of your life. 1 hour where your phone is off, your mind is clear, your body is alert. You commit to a task, whether it's work, reading, training, or speaking with someone you love. No switches, no tabs, just one channel, one current of full awareness. By the end of that hour, you've moved forward 10 times faster than the person chasing 5 things at once and finishing none. This is where your transformation begins. Not in massive change, but in microscopic alignment. You begin showing up to your meals, to your workouts, to your planning, to your relationships with all of you, not just a tired, distracted fraction. And what you bring presence to, you give power to. Your actions deepen. Your relationships sharpen. Your progress accelerates. You stop living in delay. You stop feeling split. You become whole. Let me give you something to anchor this idea. Picture a fighter entering the ring. He's not thinking about dinner. He's not replying to DMs. He's not wondering what others will think of him. In that moment, he is only breath, movement, instinct, purpose. And that's why he's dangerous, because he's fully there. Now ask yourself, what would happen if you showed up to your own life with that level of presence? Not once a year, every day, every hour. Presence isn't a skill you master in one night. It's a habit you sharpen with discipline. Wake up, breathe, move, focus. And when distraction pulls, you pull back harder. Not with anger, with clarity. This is your life, and you are not here to miss it. So start small. The next time you eat, just eat. The next time you speak to someone, really listen. The next time you work, shut out the noise. It's not the size of your effort, it's the quality of your attention. If you bring 100% to one thing, that one thing will bring 100% back to you. In a world drowning in noise, attention is power, presence is rebellion, and your ability to be fully here, right now, is the strongest move you'll ever make. 4. Life is a balance of opposites. Accept both sides. You can't only want the sunshine and curse the storm. You can't only welcome the gain and reject the loss. Life was never designed to be one-sided. It breathes in duality. Every inhale needs an exhale. Every rise meets a fall. Strength doesn't exist without weakness, and no one grows from comfort alone. But most people waste their lives chasing only half of the spectrum, only the easy, the certain, the pleasurable, and in doing so, they reject the very tension that shapes them. The Stoics saw this clearly. They didn't try to escape hardship, they trained with it. Because they understood, resisting life's dual nature is the fastest way to suffer. Embracing it is the only way to grow. When you expect only light, the dark breaks you. When you expect only wins, a single failure crushes you. But when you see both as part of the same cycle, when you welcome the full weight of life, you stop fearing the inevitable. Marcus Aurelius didn't ask life to be easy. He wrote in his journal each day, reminding himself that pain, betrayal, setbacks, even death, were all natural, nothing to be shocked by, nothing to run from. And this mindset gave him power, not passivity. He ruled the greatest empire on earth, not by avoiding chaos, but by learning to breathe calmly inside it. That's what modern Stoic resilience looks like. Not detachment, but integration. Life will always be movement, up and down, fast and slow, full and empty. What matters is your response in the shift. Do you crumble when life pulls back, or do you anchor deeper? Do you panic when love fades, or do you learn how to keep your heart open through loss? This is not about toxic positivity. This is not about pretending that pain doesn't hurt. It's about knowing that pain doesn't have the final word. That just as spring follows winter, clarity often follows collapse. But only for those who don't run. You might be in a season of struggle now. Your plans fell apart, your confidence is low, your mind keeps playing the same fear-based loop, and everything in you wants to fight it, fix it, or flee. But pause. What if the struggle isn't the enemy? What if it's the test before the transformation? What if it's not happening to destroy you, but to strip away what's no longer real, so the stronger version of you can emerge? That's what the Stoics believed, that adversity reveals character. Not in theory, but in blood, in breath, in real life. They prepared themselves every day with what they called premeditatio malorum, the rehearsal of loss, failure, and pain. Not to attract them, but to never be surprised by them, so that when the wave comes, you don't drown, you ride. Picture a tree in the wind. The storm doesn't destroy it because its roots run deep. Its strength is in its stillness, but also in its sway. Flexibility without collapse. That's how you live this principle. You let life shake you, but you don't break. You bend, you adjust, you learn, and in that space between resistance and surrender, you become powerful. But this requires brutal honesty. You have to stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what can I become through this? You stop labeling things as good or bad and start seeing them as necessary. Necessary for growth, necessary for expansion. Necessary for the version of you that doesn't yet exist. That shift in language rewires your brain. It calms your nervous system. It gives you back control. Because now you're not a victim of the wave, you're a surfer with purpose. Try it. The next time something goes wrong, don't curse it. Step into it. Observe your reaction. Ask what it's showing you. Then breathe. Slow down. And remember that this moment is part of something bigger. You won't understand it all now. You're not supposed to. But if you keep showing up, present, grounded, willing, the meaning will meet you in time. You don't need a perfect life, you need a powerful perspective. You need to stop chasing balance as if it's a fixed state and start dancing with it like it's a rhythm. Because that's what it is. And the more you trust the rhythm, the less you'll fear the changes. You'll stop gripping the highs like lifelines. You'll stop collapsing at every low. You'll find yourself able to stand tall in both, with a steady gaze and a calm heart. That's the strength Stoicism builds. Not surface-level confidence, but deep-rooted peace. So don't just seek the light, respect the shadow. Don't just pray for ease. Welcome the wait. Stop asking for life to be simpler. Ask to be stronger. Because when you learn to love both sides of life, life will stop scaring you and start shaping you. 5. Walk the middle way. Know when to act and when to pause. If you only know how to push, you'll burn out. If you only know how to wait, you'll fade away. Life isn't a battlefield of extremes. It's a war of rhythm. There's a time to charge and a time to hold position, a time to speak and a time to remain silent, a time to chase and a time to release. But most people live in imbalance, trapped in constant overdrive or passive delay. One moment they're sprinting with no direction, the next they're stuck in stillness, calling it patience, but it's really fear. The Stoic path doesn't choose either extreme. It walks the middle way, the only path where clarity meets power. Knowing when to act and when to pause isn't guesswork, it's awareness. It's presence. It's tuning in instead of running on autopilot. When you learn to read your own energy, your own timing, your own inner signals, you stop operating out of ego and start moving from truth. Marcus Aurelius wasn't impulsive. He reflected before striking. He led an empire not through force, but through restraint wrapped in strength. And that's what walking the middle way means. It's not weakness, it's calculated intensity. It's the wisdom to wait without losing momentum. It's the courage to move without needing certainty. You might think pushing harder is always the answer, but sometimes discipline looks like slowing down, not speeding up. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to rest when everything screams hustle. That's not laziness, that's strategy. Because when your action isn't aligned, it becomes wasted energy. And no one can afford to keep bleeding energy into places that don't grow them. So this is where inner mastery begins. Not in blind action, but in intentional alignment. There's a reason elite warriors train with silence, not noise. A reason they rehearse stillness before battle. Because stillness builds control. Control sharpens response, and response beats reaction every time. The Stoics didn't rush. They moved when the moment was right, and they trained to recognize that moment. You can do the same. You don't need to be always doing. You need to know why you're doing. You don't need to always be loud. You need to be effective. And that shift begins by rejecting the lie that says busyness equals worth. Think about your own life. How many things have you started too fast, only to burn out halfway? How many people have you chased, only to realize they weren't aligned with your truth? How many decisions have you made from panic, only to regret them when the dust settled? Now ask, what would have happened if you paused first? What could you have avoided if you learned to hold your fire until the target was clear? That's not inaction, that's precision. That's what happens when you stop reacting and start choosing. Walking the middle way is about learning to move with timing, not tension. It's about knowing that you don't have to rush everything, and you also don't have to wait forever. You act when it's time. You wait when it's wise. And in both, you stay grounded. This is how you escape the trap of comparison, of chasing timelines that aren't yours, of measuring progress by speed instead of alignment. When you trust your rhythm, you stop borrowing pressure from the world. You start breathing in your own pace, and everything sharpens. This applies to how you train, how you love, how you lead. In the gym, pushing through every rep without rest doesn't make you stronger. It gets you injured. In relationships, speaking without listening doesn't create connection, it destroys it. In work, grinding without pause doesn't guarantee results, it often guarantees collapse. So yes, effort matters, but timing decides everything. You're not weak for resting. You're smart for recharging. You're not lazy for waiting. You're wise for preparing. Just make sure you're not avoiding life under the disguise of reflection. One way to live this now is simple. Before any major decision, ask yourself, am I acting from pressure or purpose? Am I moving from ego or alignment? If it's fear driving you, pause. If it's clarity guiding you, proceed. Not everything needs to happen today, but when it's time, don't delay. Trust the stillness, but don't marry it. Respect the movement, but don't worship it. Walk the line that balances both, and you'll start to feel your life fall into place, not by force, but by flow. Because the middle way isn't about being average, it's about being intentional. It's the path of the focused, the grounded, the wise. And if you can master the rhythm of action and stillness, no chaos can pull you off course. 6. Gratitude to those who helped shape you. There's a power that doesn't shout, a force that works quietly in the shadows of your past, shaping you, strengthening you, even saving you when you didn't notice. It's not a self-help trick or a positive thinking strategy. It's gratitude, but not the kind that's soft or shallow, the kind that rips your ego wide open, the kind that forces you to admit you didn't get here alone. In a world obsessed with being self-made, we forget the truth. None of us is. Somewhere along your path, someone showed up. A mentor, a friend, a stranger, even an enemy. Someone pushed you forward, broke you down, or held you steady. And without them, you're not who you are. Most people walk through life blind to the hands that shaped them. They're too focused on what they didn't get to recognize, what they were given. But Stoicism flips that lens. Marcus Aurelius began his meditations by listing those he owed: his calm temperament from his grandfather, his sense of justice from his father, his discipline from his teachers. It wasn't bragging, it was remembering. It was anchoring himself in reality. Gratitude, to the Stoics, wasn't soft, it was armor. It reminded them where they came from. It kept them humble when praised and grounded when attacked. Because you can't be shaken by what others say about you if you've already anchored yourself in truth. I remember a man named Dylan, a janitor at the martial arts school I trained at when I was 17. He barely spoke, always arrived before everyone, and left after we'd all gone home. He'd mop the mats, realign the gear, sharpen the wooden swords we rarely touched. One day, after a brutal sparring session, I collapsed near the door, frustrated, bleeding, done. He didn't say much, just handed me a towel and whispered, "You get stronger every time you don't give up." Then he walked away. That single moment has echoed in my life more than 1,000 motivational speeches. Not because it was dramatic, but because it came from someone who saw everything and expected nothing. People like that shape you in silence, and if you're not paying attention, you'll miss them. Gratitude is dangerous to the ego because it forces you to admit you didn't do it all yourself. But that's why it's necessary. It kills entitlement and births resilience. When you practice true gratitude, you stop comparing your life to others. You stop complaining about what you lack. You start seeing what you've survived, what you've built, who walked with you through the dark. You see how pain carved out space for strength, how betrayal gave you boundaries, how even silence taught you to listen. It doesn't mean you glorify suffering, but you stop running from the people and moments that grew you. This ties back to the core of Stoic strength. You can't build mental toughness without humility, and you can't be humble if you don't remember the people who got you here. Gratitude keeps your identity clean. It reminds you that you're not a product of luck or victimhood. You're the result of effort, yes, but also of influence. And when you acknowledge that, you become stronger, not weaker. Because now, you don't carry your journey alone, you carry a legacy. You walk with the quiet strength of everyone who ever believed in you, trained you, doubted you, or challenged you. So here's your invitation. Think of 3 people, alive or not, who changed you. Write to them, even if they'll never read it. Speak it out loud if you must, but don't just name them. Say what they taught you, say how they shifted you, and feel it, not because it's a ritual, but because it grounds you. When you remember who helped build you, you stop trying to prove yourself. You start living from truth, not trauma. You act from peace, not performance. And that shift changes how you lead, how you show up, how you handle pressure. Gratitude isn't about being soft, it's about being unbreakable. When the world ignores you, you'll remember who saw you. When the pressure rises, you'll remember who trained you for this. When doubt creeps in, you'll remember who whispered strength into you when no one else saw value. And when you stand tall in your power, you'll carry every single one of them with you. Not out of debt, but out of honor. Because real power is remembering who made you powerful. And real freedom is never forgetting how far you've come. 7. Suffering comes from separation. Unity brings peace. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Marcus Aurelius didn't write this to sound poetic. He wrote it as a shield. Because what breaks most people isn't reality, it's the illusion of separation. The false belief that pain, joy, loss, gain, self and others, control and chaos are disconnected pieces when in truth, They're all part of one unbreakable current. And the deeper you buy into that separation, the more your suffering multiplies. You begin to see your past as an anchor, your future as a threat, and your present as never enough. You start believing that other people are obstacles, that success is a battlefield, that life is a competition. Slowly, everything around you becomes fragmented. Your mind splits, your emotions spiral. Your peace dissolves. This is the real danger of disconnection, not from others, but from your own center. When you believe you're separate from the flow of life, you start fighting it. You resist events, hate change, fear endings. You spend energy trying to bend the world instead of aligning with it. You react to everything and reflect on nothing. Stoicism cuts through that chaos with a sword of clarity. It teaches you to close the gap between what you want and what is, between your image of people and who they truly are, between your fears and your reality. Because that space, the mental space where resistance lives, is where pain breeds. And if you want to kill the pain, you don't fight the world. You close the space. This is why Stoic training begins inside. Not with rules, not with routines, but with recognition. You start seeing the inner tension, the pull between your expectations and your experience. And you start asking the only question that matters: is this separation real, or is it a story? Once you see the story, you can reframe it. You stop wishing things were different and start working with what is. You stop demanding outcomes and start refining your response. You stop needing people to act a certain way and start mastering your emotional control. That shift, subtle, internal, constant, is how suffering fades. Not by escaping life, but by uniting with it, moment by moment. It's not easy. The mind will resist. It loves conflict. It feeds on judgment. It thrives on labeling everything as right or wrong, better or worse, me versus them. But when you stop feeding it separation, it starts to quiet down. When you no longer need to win every argument, to be right, to be praised, to be in control, you return to peace. You stop clenching your fists and start opening your awareness. And from that awareness, real power rises. Because nothing shakes a man who sees everything as connected. He may fall, but he doesn't break. He may lose, but he doesn't suffer. Because he sees the unity beneath the pain. This is why Stoics practiced amor fati, the love of fate. Not passive acceptance, but deep integration. A mindset where you see every event, even the ones that hurt, as part of the whole. Not as punishment, but as preparation. Not as chaos, but as correction. You stop blaming the storm and start learning how to walk in rain. That kind of peace isn't fragile. It doesn't depend on outcomes. It's rooted in something deeper. A quiet knowing that life isn't happening to you or against you. It's happening through you. And every time you resist, you block the flow. So stop separating yourself from what's already yours. Stop calling this moment wrong just because it's hard. Stop dividing yourself from others because they don't understand you. Stop cutting your life into chapters of failure and success. Just see it as one continuous arc, one breath, one rhythm, one unfolding. The mind loves to complicate, but wisdom simplifies. And the deepest simplicity is this: when you are one with what is, you suffer less. Reintegration isn't magic. It's a choice, a discipline, a return. And every time you come back to stillness, to now, to truth, you reclaim your peace. You don't need the world to agree with you. You don't need every event to go your way. You just need to stop splitting yourself from life. Because peace doesn't come from control. It comes from unity. And unity starts in your mind. 8. Growth begins where comfort ends. You don't grow when it's easy. You grow when it's hard, when it's uncomfortable, when it hurts. But the mind hates that truth. It builds illusions of safety, of routine, of predictability, and convinces you that as long as nothing breaks, you're okay. That illusion is the prison. Comfort seduces you with silence. But under that silence is stagnation, decay, weakness wearing the mask of peace. You weren't born to live numb. You were built to evolve. And growth never comes dressed as comfort. It shows up as resistance, fear, friction. If you're not stepping into discomfort daily, you're not growing. You're surviving. Stoic philosophy doesn't romanticize pain, but it doesn't run from it either. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." The Stoics trained themselves to face hardship not when they had to, but before they had to. They practiced cold, hunger, rejection, not for suffering's sake, but to sharpen mental resilience. That's not masochism. That's preparation. Because life doesn't warn you before it breaks you. You either meet adversity ready or you get swallowed by it. And the only way to be ready is to train discomfort into your routine. Growth begins the moment you choose discomfort over delay. It begins when you wake earlier than your body wants, when you say no to what's easy and yes to what aligns. When you have the hard conversation, when you do the extra rep, when you meditate through the chaos instead of escaping it. None of that feels good. But that's the point. The discomfort is the proof. You don't get stronger by doing what you already know. You grow by stretching into what you don't, like a muscle tearing to rebuild. Your mind must be pushed into unfamiliar spaces to become sharp. The reason so many people stay stuck is because they confuse familiarity with safety. But what's familiar isn't always safe. Sometimes it's a trap, a job that kills your purpose, a routine that numbs your soul, a mindset that keeps you small. And unless you disrupt it, nothing changes. You don't need a new life, you need a new threshold, a higher tolerance for uncertainty, for effort, for challenge. Growth doesn't wait for permission. It shows up the moment you stop needing conditions to be perfect. This ties directly into the core of self-mastery. If you only act when it's easy, you're a slave to comfort. But if you act when it's hard, when you're tired, unsure, afraid, you're free. Free not because the fear disappears, but because you chose to move anyway. Every time you choose action in discomfort, you send a signal to your subconscious. I'm not controlled by this. And that signal rewires you. Over time, you become less reactive, less fragile, more focused, more dangerous in the best way. You don't need to leap into extremes. Start small. Choose one thing today that stretches you. Say what you've been avoiding. Do the task you keep postponing. Sit in silence instead of reaching for distraction. Turn off the noise and listen to the discomfort. That tension you feel, it's not the enemy, it's the edge of your next level. And if you lean into it long enough, it breaks. And when it breaks, you expand. This is how you transform, not by chasing big results, but by repeating small acts of courage in places that scare you. You begin to crave challenge. You begin to smile at resistance. Not because you love pain, but because you recognize its role. You stop asking, when will it get easier? And you start asking, how much stronger can I get? That's when you know you've crossed the threshold from surviving to evolving. Don't wait for life to force you into growth. Don't wait for crisis to push you past your limits. Choose it now. Step into it. Build a daily habit of discomfort. Make it part of your discipline. Because if you only rise when pressured, you're reactive. But if you rise by choice, you become unshakable. Growth doesn't feel good when it's happening, but nothing feels better than who you become because of it. So stretch, burn, break the old shell. Walk straight into the fire, because your future is waiting on the other side of what you're avoiding right now. As you've heard throughout this journey, the world won't always care. It won't pause to ask if you're tired or if you're doubting yourself. But that's not the tragedy. It's the training ground. Because once you accept that nobody's coming, you realize the truth. You were meant to rise for yourself. To build your strength not from applause, but from purpose. And that strength begins within. Your mind can be your greatest ally or your worst enemy. Discipline is the key to real freedom. Presence in action creates power. Life will always swing between opposites, and your peace depends on your ability to embrace both. When you learn to walk the middle way, when you choose to grow through discomfort, and when you carry gratitude like armor, you become unshakable. Stoicism isn't just a philosophy, it's a practice. A daily choice to respond with clarity instead of reaction, to reclaim your energy, to take back your time, to ground your focus not in motivation but in mental discipline. You don't need to be perfect, but you need to be present. Show up, breathe, reflect, act, then repeat. Start small. One choice today, one pause before reacting, one moment of gratitude, one breath to reconnect. These small moments compound, and over time they will rewire the way you think, feel, and live. If this message resonated with you, let it move you to action. And I invite you, share your experience in the comments. What have you overcome? What mindset shift has helped you keep going? You're not alone on this path. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to keep walking. So remember, nobody cares until you do. And once you do, everything changes.